Hi, my name is Sophie, and I am the mother of two adult children who live with serious mental illness. Today, I want to talk to you about the days that follow the onset of your child's illness. This is a subject that's really close to my heart because I remember how terrified, how desperate, and alone I felt during that time. There were a number of years between the onset of my first child's diagnosis and then my second child's. So I thought I was prepared the second time, but I went through the same range of emotions all over again: disbelief, fear, uh, embarrassment, anxiety, shame. I felt guilt about not having seen it coming, about making mistakes, which I certainly made more of the first time around before I had any education, and just a whole slew of emotions that were really painful and uncomfortable. So, the first thing I'd like to suggest that you do is acknowledge that you have had a life changing event. It's just like being hit by a bus in many ways. If you were struck by a bus and both of your legs were broken, the first thing you would probably do is acknowledge to yourself that you wouldn't be able to perform as you usually do for a while. You would probably have to call into work and let them know you'll be gone for a bit. You'd have to reach out to people to help you with things you couldn't take care of, like maybe carpooling or other duties that you have. And you might want to let your loved ones know what had happened, both so they could be aware of it and offer sympathy and support. But it's different when your child is suffering from serious mental illness, especially the most stigmatized ones, like those with psychosis. Schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, all of these are viewed by society with a lot of stigma. And so it's only natural to be really afraid to tell people. And we'll talk about that more in another video. But for now, your number one goal is to take care of yourself. Now, the first thing to do is to take care of your physical needs. I have heard so many parents say that they are unable to eat, that they have trouble sleeping. Those are critical things for your health, however, so you want to do everything you can to stick to your normal routine, make sure you don't skip meals, and definitely get some exercise. That is probably one of the number one things that helped me when I was going through the early days of my children's illnesses. The second thing you might want to do is to put the rest of your family relationships at the top of your list. I'm sure you've heard that phrase about putting your mask on before you help others when you're flying. It's the same thing here. So once you've taken care of your baseline needs, then you want to make sure not to neglect the rest of those relationships. In particular, be aware that the children, the siblings of your child, are also going through something. Now, the youngest don't need to know all the details, and for anyone a little bit older, go by their cues. If they tell you that they want to know more about what their sibling is going through, give them the information. But if they ask or don't even ask, but indicate that they don't want to know, it's fine not to give them all the details. You might want to reassure them that their sibling is getting care. You might want to acknowledge that what they're seeing is different, unexpected, and even a little frightening. You may also, especially if your child with the illness is experiencing psychosis, maybe acting in ways that your child might find frightening, you might want to enlist the help of another trusted adult to help care for them. Not necessarily to take them out of the home, but to give them some time away. So this might be a really good time to have your best friend take them out for ice cream, or maybe have grandma offer to take them for a sleepover. But that brings me to another point. Early on, it's really natural to wonder who you can tell, and to maybe even, given the attitudes in your family, have some doubts about how it will be received. So what you want to do is think about those people that need to know first. So this might be things like teachers, if your child is of school age. Maybe you want to let the administrators know. You don't have to give them all the details. All you need to say is that your child is going through a medical emergency, and do insist on confidentiality because that is owed to you. You then want to think about the people who are accustomed to seeing your child in everyday life. Maybe if they have a part-time job or if they're a babysitter, just take care of those things first. Also, you can enlist help if you have a best friend or a sister or a brother that can do that for you. Absolutely do that. So those are the need to knows. After that, you'll want to make sure that your own relationship within your family is taken care of. One thing I've noticed as a single mother is that when people have a partner to go through this with, they often find a way to sort of take turns. One person will have a terrible day, need time to themselves, maybe experience a lot of fear and anxiety, while the other takes the helm and then switch. And I absolutely think that's a great thing if you can pull that off. But also make sure that you are taking the time to nurture that relationship, because this is hard on relationships. So, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but you want to take times just for yourselves as well. So after you've dealt with your immediate family, the people that live with you every day, then you want to think about who to tell next. Now, I think it's very natural, especially for people like me who are very introverted, to want to isolate. And I will admit I did that both times during the onset of both of my children's illnesses. I really had no desire to reach out to friends. I avoided phone calls, didn't answer texts or emails. I just felt that I didn't have it in me. Now, with what I've learned, I would really have pushed myself to at least be in contact with the people that could have offered support. I have a very good memory of two of my friends staging an intervention one day when they hadn't heard from me in a while, and they came over with a laptop and we watched Project Runway all afternoon. So I hope for you that you have friends like that. But if you don't, let's say that you're not sure how your friends will react. I still encourage you to have some community, get out there and be with people. And the way I recommend doing it is this. You want to figure out what to say in advance and how much you're willing to say, and then stick to it. At this point, you'll need to start taking care of your emotional health. If you already have a therapist, this is a good time to engage them. If they don't have a lot of experience with this, it's perfectly acceptable to ask for a referral or find someone who does have experience with families experiencing serious mental illness. The next thing you want to do is to start getting an education. Now, there's lots of ways to do it. NAMI is a wonderful place to start. There are chapters all over the country. Just Google NAMI, and they'll have lots of resources on the website and also local chapters that you can join for peer support and as well as education. But even before you get that far, you might want to take a little time to kind of examine the feelings that you're experiencing. I recommend journaling. It's a practice I do almost every day, and it helps me not just to name the emotions, but to start to strategize how to deal with it. So I'll tell you right now that it is very common from many of the parents I've talked about to have feelings that we're ashamed of. We may wish that we hadn't had this child at all. That's actually quite natural. And please don't beat yourself up for it. It's just one stage in this journey. You may often find yourself feeling ashamed or fearful about telling other people. And that's also natural, and it's not your fault. It's the fault of a society that has stigmatized this illness for very long. So please don't beat up on yourself for those feelings. But then let's get to the other feelings that you might have of grief, of loss, because even though you have every right to hope for and expect treatment and a better path for your loved one in the future, the truth is that you're probably going to be letting go of some dreams that you have for your child, and it takes time to grieve that. I'm not suggesting you go through that whole process now, but just to know it's there and to write it down and get those feelings on paper can be really helpful. If you're the type of person who is extroverted or finds comfort in groups, it's a really good time to find a peer group. So there are support groups. You might try calling the local hospital, NAMI, as I've mentioned, or your insurance company to see if they have any groups that they can refer you to. If you don't have access to therapy or other resources, you might find that some of the apps that are available today can be really helpful. I actually use Headspace as a technique both for sleep and for meditation. I'm not a very good meditator, so I really appreciate the guided meditation, but studies have shown that even 10 minutes a day spent with one of these apps can really help in bringing down your level of anxiety. Now here's a delicate subject. it's really natural to lean on substances during this time. I've done it. I'll be quite honest with you. I have turned to alcohol as a means to numb the unbearable feelings and to kind of get away from my reality a bit. It's very tempting and it's very common, but studies have shown that alcohol, marijuana, other things we use to numb ourselves don't help in the long run. They can actually lead to greater anxiety and they can lead to sleep disruption. So anything you can do to preserve your sleep is worth giving some thought to. And if you do indulge in substances, try to keep control of it during this time. Another thing that people like to do to calm their anxieties is mindful activities. Now, I'm not talking about meditation here. I am not good at meditation, but I am talking about things that allow your mind to roam while your hands are engaged. So knitters probably already know that that can be really soothing. Doing jigsaw puzzles is another thing that you can try. Yard work is one of my favorites. I like to get out there and work in my garden. Just even weeding is something that I find really helpful. The last thing I want to recommend may seem counterintuitive, but it's really important that you spend some time not thinking about your child. I would recommend trying to do something you enjoy. Now, I can almost hear you saying, there's no way, no, I don't feel like it, nothing will be enjoyable. And that may be true. You may not enjoy it, but I'm suggesting that you return to something that you enjoy doing. So for me, it was going for walks and reading books. Now, the books I read during the early days of my children's illnesses, I couldn't tell you a thing about them. You probably will find that your focus is diminished during this time, but just the act of doing something that had brought me pleasure in the past was helpful. It's also great if you have a trusted friend that you can enlist, or perhaps your partner, to try to find some humor. Watch a funny movie, go to a comedy club, anything that you can do to put your mind in a different place. It's okay to laugh right now. It's okay to have dark humor. Seriously, anything that makes you feel a little better right now in these early days is a-okay. So trust me, I know what you're going through, and this is a hard time. There's no way around that, but there are ways that you can make it a little bit easier. So let's summarize what we talked about today. Acknowledge that your world has been rocked. Let people know that you'll be absent a while. Check in regularly with your other children, also with your partner. Accept and ask for help from trusted people. Make sure that you're eating, that you're sleeping, you're getting some exercise, and try to limit your substance use. Look for ways to get education and support and start to build a supportive community around you. Make sure to take some time for yourself, either doing things you enjoy or maybe try some mindful activities. So I'm not going to tell you that this is going to be easy. You've got a long road ahead of you. Right now, you're just at the start, and it's really important to take care of yourself. Thanks so much for joining me today.